So thanks firstly for joining us this afternoon. I cannot believe it. It's 2 months down. 2026 is absolutely flying, and with that, we're building up to the FDL cycle. So today's information session is all to do with Heliolab. We've had 2 sessions already, one for Earth Systems Lab and one for Lunar Lab, the sister programs. So we're wrapping up the week here with Heliolab, and just want to welcome you all. We are going to run through quite a packed program this afternoon. So a quick agenda is very much what you see on the slide here. So going to dive into FDL, Heliolab, the 101. What do you expect? What is this all about? And then digging a bit deeper in terms of the timelines and the sprint period itself. You've all probably heard about the famous sprint. And then being part of Heliolab, what does that mean? What does it mean in terms of the community, the research associated? We're also going to be joined by one of our alumni to share a few reflections. And then, of course, for a lot of you joining us this afternoon, we'll jump into the application information and open for Q&A. So it really is a session for you. We're going to be very responsive to all of your questions throughout, and the way we can do that is through the Q&A function on Google Meet. So for those of you not too familiar with it, if you look at the bottom right of your screen, you will see 9 little dots. If you click on that, you should be able to pull up a Q&A window. So just doing that right now. Let me give an example. So very simple question. How are you doing? And you'll see that with the Q&A, you can also upvote. So if you really want a question answered that someone else is asking, please upvote. That gets these questions flagged, and we will cover as many as possible. The conversion rate at the moment for the last 2 sessions has been 100%, so we'll keep that energy going. But yeah, that's the way we run it, and let's get stuck in. So in terms of introductions, I'm Mike Haynes. I'm FDL program lead across the various different programs, and this afternoon also going to be joined by Joseph, who's a FDL alumnus. He's been involved with multiple programs, multiple challenges, and in multiple roles, research and faculty. So really, thank you for joining us this afternoon. We'll jump into some of the reflections, and also as we go through the session, please do hop in the Q&A. Any questions around that what does it feel like to be a researcher, anything like that? And obviously Joseph can help me answer that. And also great to see so many familiar faces, see a whole bunch of absolute rock stars from Heliolab over the years, faculty and researchers. So yeah, great to see everyone joining us this afternoon. So to start the afternoon off, we're going to ask a bit of a bold question, I guess. And it's all around, can you do world-class AI research over a summer? So we pride ourselves in sprinting towards a kind of a goal. And the answer is absolutely yes. So what I'd rather frame this as, to all of you joining us, what research do you want to lead the world in? And this is the platform to do that. FDL is exactly that. So we've been doing this for the past 11 years now. Crazy to think that time has flown so much. And to be honest, AI for science has changed in the last 11 years. 11 years ago, it was new and shiny, and you could do something and it was brand spanking new. But as we see, AI in general is so part of our lives now. The approaches and the kind of potential of data are being realized more and more. So amazing to see the sort of maturation of these capabilities. A little bit more about FDL. So FDL is not just a single program, it's a whole portfolio of programs. Today's call is around Heliolab, so this is very much sort of NASA supported, focusing on heliophysics, but it's more generally space science, space weather, anything where the sun is the sort of central driver to impact us as humankind. There are another 2 challenges or programs that were running last year. That is Earth Systems Lab, where the main sort of stakeholder is ESA and looking at Earth systems, everything from climate change to crisis response. And then a Lunar Lab, which was a new program in partnership with Luxembourg Space Agency, looking at lunar science and particularly lunar resources. So some very exciting work that came out of that lab last year, first foundation model for lunar resources. In the wings, there are also other programs, and these are also US-based programs, in particular FDL Med, looking at exploration medicine in particular. That's in the wings and pending, and similarly Flight Lab, so looking at everything aero. And one of the other kind of things just to have on the radar, it's new, it's adjacent to typical FDL programs, but spinning that up this year, actually will be heading down tomorrow to South Africa for this. This is FDL Foundations Africa. So this is making use of geospatial foundation models and creating applied use cases that can be used on the ground and in real time. So all this to say that FDL isn't just a single siloed program, it's community. It's touching everything from the Earth, the Sun, the Moon, and everything in between. And it's all about having this larger perspective about how to do science differently. What is it that we actually do as FDL? Well, we specialize in fusing subject matter specialists with data science and really approaching big open problems in an interdisciplinary way, and doing that with quite a defined process, being incredibly intentional, and yeah, creating the environment for that magic to happen. So FDL isn't the actual driver behind this. It is you all on the call who make the magic happen. We provide this container, get the right people into the right places and give them the right tools to do the best science of their lives. So that's very much what we do. And to do that, you cannot do it alone. It's really dependent on the amazing partners we have. So this is from last year, just looking at the different labs. As I mentioned, Earth Systems Lab is more ESA focused or supported, Lunar Lab, Luxembourg, and Heliolab, NASA. And last year, incredibly thankful to our compute providers. So as we know, with the explosion of AI across various different aspects of our lives, computers become a rare commodity and very valuable. But we have a long-standing relationship with Google Cloud and NVIDIA. Scan AI as well has been helping us across the board. It's due to this deep relationship with our stakeholders that we can do this incredible science over summer. And just to say, it goes 2 ways. The beautiful thing about this is that we get the computer to do the science, but the science can also really push what is possible with the various different hardwares that are now available and new approaches. And the whole range of different examples. One that I can pick out right now is from last year with a particular challenge, the orchestrated challenge, which was driving sort of agentic workflows for science right at the bleeding edge before all of us got used to Claude and other things. So for the last 11 years, we've been using AI, particularly to do applied AI for science. And this is across the different regimes, looking at the sun, how it affects us, observing our dynamic planets, and also exploring our moon and our near-Earth environment. Most importantly, we do like to ground ourselves, thinking of how do we protect our planets, our infrastructure, and our communities. And this applied sense, the grounding, the kind of the big whys we want to be we pushing is incredibly important in the research. With that, over the last 11 years, absolute fantastic portfolio of different capabilities. And with that, very proud of a lot of the research teams that have gone on and published in top journals and presented at a lot of these top conferences as well. All of this can be found on the website, so I won't dwell on that. But what I would like to emphasize is that with that applied focus, we also have a deep science focus, and that is incredibly important. The beautiful thing about the interdisciplinary way in which FDL operates is that one blends that sort of academic rigor, that science focus, with the sort of industry best practices, and really making the most of the opportunity that AI does bring to science and to data. With the sort of maturation of our capabilities, as I said, AI now is very different to AI 10, 11 years ago. We definitely don't see it as a sort of a single data set equals a single pipeline, and you get a paper and then it's there and it's sort of siloed. So one of the things that we're really focusing on, and in 2026 we'll continue to focus on, is this concept of sort of applied orchestration with that science focus. So it's not just AI for science, but it's AI infrastructure for science. It's how do we unlock the potential of all these different models together, and think quite carefully about how do we create something that is future fit. How does your machine learning pipeline actually learn with new data that comes in? How can it be applied to different contexts? How do we make use of the really fantastic physics-based models that we have and merge those into our own workflows? So really looking at the kind of integrated way which we can solve these big problems. There's no single silver bullet that will solve everything. And one sees that also with the kind of looking back over the last few years. There are capabilities that can be orchestrated together, and we saw that actually happen in last year's challenge quite explicitly. But everything from sun to mud, we can start putting these capabilities together, and this is the vision. This is 100% the vision. I would also like to very briefly highlight a few case studies just to get a bit of a feel for FDL, what that looks like. Where does this research go ultimately? I mentioned it's not just a paper that gets produced. So here's an example from a number of challenges ago, ML for floods. And what this was a onboard machine learning pipeline that does flood segmentation. And the catch here is that one could identify floods as soon as they happen and really reduce that response time, because you converting your ML pipeline to something that can be run on board a satellite and do that segmentation in a very short amount of time. Another example, also looking down towards Earth, is the StarCop pipeline. This was particularly looking at greenhouse gas emissions, focusing on methane in particular, and working again in a onboard context where a multispectral sensor could identify that there is a leak of some sort, in this case a methane emission, and then a queuing satellite with the hyperspectral capability can go and do the concentration analysis of it. And this was a pipeline that is being implemented at the UN now as part of the methane alert and response system. So one sees that tracking through from what was initially a sort of a napkin idea all the way through to something that is being used. Another example, and this is directly from Heliolab, is the Karman continual learning thermospheric model. So thermospheric density obviously plays a huge role in the way we operate our satellites, and with these mega constellations that are becoming more and more prevalent, this is becoming more and more important. So with Karman, what we have is a operational capability. This is being hosted at SW Trek at the moment, where one can visualize the thermosphere and in different contexts. So just again, an example of what you start off with as an initial idea gets matured, and there is a very applied sense. So that's looking backward. Now looking forward to 2026, the real question that we're asking is, well, what's the new capability that is needed? And the framing for 26, actually across all the different programs, is building the mission control of the future. We can see this capability is becoming more and more available to us, that we can reimagine what that mission control of the future is, whether it be for Earth, whether it be for operations on the moon, whether it be for the sun itself. So within Heliolab, a particular interest area is space situational awareness. Now, that's not necessarily just space weather. There's a lot of science needed, space science needed to understand that. But with us venturing further and further into the solar system, definitely revisiting the moon, but also looking elsewhere, this becomes more and more important. As a initial sort of teaser to what could be a possible set of challenges, just to say that there's a lot of work behind the scenes, discussing with various different stakeholders. We had an amazing big think with some fantastic ideas coming out of that. Here are a few ideas that are sort of percolating, but the idea behind this is that we are looking, again, not as sort of siloed research challenges, but research challenges that can contribute to a sort of a frontier intelligence stack. And one can think of this as sort of a perceiving layer, where you're thinking of data and sensors processing, where you're converting that into some sort of analytics, but then also a planning layer, which suddenly you start thinking of reasoning and decision making, and converting that into actions. So some thoughts here, just to whet the appetite. The first kind of direction could be something along the lines of building on the foundations of Surya. So over the last 12 to 18 months, there's been a concerted effort within heliophysics to develop a foundation model for the sun, using the full 4K imagery. And an interesting avenue to explore here is a generative sort of pipeline for heliophysics data. So there's a kind of idea of what is the compression that you could get out, but also when you do have kind of gaps in what is represented within that data, how can you create a generative aspect of that, and a foundation model within the embeddings. That's something that could be quite interesting to explore, and generating these new physics constrained data in rare event regions as defined by something like Surya foundation model. Another aspect, again, supporting exploration as we return to the moon, is looking at SEP modeling pipelines using solar disk imagery, and possibly, again, the Surya Foundation model. And this SEP pipeline is not necessarily just for SEPs. Eruptive events are obviously the big driver in a lot of the effective sort of space weather we see. So CME precursors, these sorts of things. How do we actually go from just solar disk imagery, or one can even think of variations in Surya, in the embeddings? How can we find these precursors ahead of time? Another avenue, which is slightly a bit closer to home, is really unlocking the potential of data. We've seen great success in previous FDLs, where teams have gone and used data that hasn't really been used before, and mixing data, suddenly creating virtual instruments by merging different data sets and different sensors. One of the kind of areas where this could be particularly interesting is within the geospace environment. We have a whole bunch of different data sets there, say field aligned currents, auroral electrojets, and magnetic field measurements. And all of these could, in principle, be contributing to a multimodal data set that's generate embeddings, and again, look for cross-system coupling, data reconstruction, and ultimately forecasting. The last kind of idea here, just to throw out, is around creating a validation harness for the future. So there's been a lot of fantastic work, not just in FDL, but across the community. And how do we build this sort of a agentic orchestration system and the reasoning framework to do the autonomous validation that can be possible? There have been some recent papers which have done exactly that, even in heliophysics. And how do we scale this? How do we understand that? So last year there was a bit of work, we'll touch on it again, about creating a reasoning framework for heliophysics, particularly using Living with the Star summer school outputs, and yeah, getting that into an agentic system. But expanding the scale could be a very interesting challenge. So that's all the challenges and the thinking and where that's going. But maybe just to step back very briefly and look at how FDL works. So I've spoken about the process, about bringing interdisciplinary folks together, coming from different regimes within heliophysics, but also within academia and industry. So this is exactly how it works. Within FDL, there are a set of different research teams tackling these different challenges. It's all within the same program, so there's the same programming associated with that. Each research team would have a set typically of 4 researchers and 2 faculty. And within that, the FDL support team. So this afternoon, it's myself and Tom as well joining us, who is very much on the support team. And we really are there to help you do the best work possible, providing the support, the process, having the compute partners involved to give you the tools needed and setting everything up. FDL as well is not just a single sprint, the 8-week sprint, which I've been speaking about. It is actually an entire year program. Right now, we're sitting in the sort of challenge definition / recruitment phase over here. And what that is really the sort of pre-FDL stage. There's also then, once we have the challenges confirmed and the faculty ready to go, then there's a period of data preparation, getting the compute together, refining the challenges so that when we start the sprint, everything is teed up and ready to go. After the sprint, then it doesn't end there either. There's a period where the teams have the opportunity to refine their research, and then ultimately, obviously, at the end of the year, be presenting the work at various different conferences and within journals. And I would say from a personal perspective and my involvement as a researcher and faculty, the relationships and the momentum generated within FDL continue for a long time to come, and still have very regular meetings looking at some interesting new science that can be done from work that started a good couple of years ago. So colleagues become friends, and very much that doesn't just stop. In terms of the challenges, where do they come from is often a question. So it's not just that we sort of pull them out of thin air. There's quite an intensive process where there's a mapping of the opportunity and solution space with kind of the development of one-page challenge ideas. This goes into often thematic workshops. So we had a fantastic one a few weeks ago, well, months ago, roughly, part of the Surya workshop, the last day of that. And what this ends up doing gives us a lot of opportunities to start developing concept memos, which then the stakeholders, in this case NASA, can really support, dive into, and then get to the defined challenges, which we would be announcing soon. And the people involved along this process are ultimately those who help define the challenges and come and guide the teams, either as faculty, mentors, or advisors. The Heliolab timeline for 2026. So we're right here at the information session, more towards the end of February than this diagram suggests, but within the next couple of weeks, hoping to confirm these challenges, confirm faculty associated. For all of you on the call, the date for the diary is very much the 31st of March, where the applications close. After that, there's a few rounds within the recruitment phases that get done, and then one announces the teams mid to end May, with a kickoff 22 June for the sprint, the 2026 Heliolab sprint. Sprint runs for the 8 weeks, so there's a live showcase, which is a sort of a TED Talk style event. celebrating the progress of the sprint itself on the 14th of August. Then a period, sort of a cool-off period. It's always a very intense time, the sprint, and the wheels are coming off by then, so we can step back a little bit and refine the various different outputs with a technical showcase in September to October period where the more detailed results are presented to the stakeholders. And then, as noted, results are released, and we have the end-of-year conferences where a lot of these get presented. Very briefly, what does the sprint look like? One's been speaking about it quite a lot. A few things to highlight. Sprint kicks off with a bit of a boot camp. So for Heliolab, this over the last few years, the entire sprint has been virtual. There is a possibility that the boot camp could be in person, but that is to be confirmed, and will definitely be letting everyone know well in advance what that could look like. There's always a desire to have a component of the sprint in person, whether that is right at the start or the end for some of the showcases. We have 8 weeks with a very well-defined process that tees you up for success at every step of the way. One of these things that really tees one up for success is the FDL Formal Friday or F3 reviews, where we have very clear signposted milestones in which we assess where progress is and help make sure that things are moving forward. So that really ensures that you're set up for success. The other thing that does that is the countdown phase. So just before the actual kickoff and the boot camp, we do have the countdown phase where there's onboarding. We get everyone familiar with the tools that we will be using, particularly since it is a virtual environment, and have everything set up. So we have all the research, we have all the process, but ultimately what FDL is the community, and community is at its core. It is all of the researchers, the faculty, the people who make it a success. And yeah, it's fantastic to see the growth as well of early career researchers really able to push the state of the art and rival the world's best in this case. So see a few familiar faces on the call as well. Great to see you, Nina. So just pulled out a few. Thank you so much for providing some perspectives here as well. Some FDL researchers from 2025. I can't see everyone's faces, so if you're also on the call, hello. But yeah, just to emphasize, the overwhelming kind of take home here is it's not just about doing amazing research and in an amazing sort of environment with computers and that. It's about the people that you work with and what comes after. Yeah, and the impact as well. So have a whole bunch over here of sort of reflections, which have been absolutely amazing. I would say please do have a look here at the website. It's always great to sort of reflect on the journey that the teams have embarked on over the last few years. So with community as well, there's a whole process around the research and getting the research right, but we also do focus very, very carefully on creating the right environment. So we have an amazing collaboration coach, Belina Rafi, she's developed 7 C's by which we really sort of hold ourselves to account with. And yeah, it's incredible to be part of an environment where community forms such a key and critical role. So before jumping into some reflections, and Joseph will jump in there, I just wanted to very briefly look back at 2025 challenges to give again a flavor of what FDL is. And I know there are quite a few folks on the call who have been involved last year, so if I butcher this, feel free to pop into the chat what's actually the challenge was all about, or yeah, even come off mute. That's all good. But just wanted to give a bit of a flavor of that. So right up, probably one of the best acronyms, the active region characterization of dynamics and evolution, arcade pipeline, was looking at surface flux transport through a physics-informed approach, and yeah, created a fantastic application as well through this. So looking at active regions and being able to predict that flux emergence in a physics relevant way. Another challenge here was the Foxes, or multimodal flare prediction team, who, as I said, really pushed the envelope in terms of unlocking the potential of NASA's data. So creating basically a virtual GOES where we have cross calibration between GOES and SDO, so you can pick out where flares are actually on the solar disk erupting from, and not just that, but breaking down that sort of integrated soft X-ray flux into sort of contributions from certain areas. And that, to me, incredibly exciting, and changes the way we could even think of cataloging flares. And I know there's a lot of work that's still going to be coming from this particular challenge. Another one here is closer to home, the ionosphere thermosphere twin challenge. So the real idea here was to create what could be a surrogate model to be modeling the ionosphere, not just from the typical dual frequency GPS receivers, but also even from mobile devices, Android devices, and pulling that into the pipeline. So a whole suite of different machine learning models, different architectures, all answering this question of predicting the total electron content in the ionosphere. And the potential here is obviously towards forecasting and seeing what sort of coupling ultimately could be done with the thermosphere, which you saw earlier with Common. I briefly did mention the orchestrated challenge. So this was a quite novel challenge. It was a very small research team, 2 researchers and a single faculty, and here really diving into quite cutting edge AI approaches. So developing an orchestrator agentic system that is able to spin up different models. And some of these models are actually ones you've seen already. So there's Arcade's surface flux transport, the flux emergence model, and the ionosphere IONOPI model that the orchestrator could, given a textual query from a user, spin up both the infrastructure and then the model and provide an output. To do this, one of the really cool things that came out of this particular bit of work is a reasoning benchmark, which, as I said, came from the Heliophysics Summer School outputs. Literally, the problem sets were able to allow the orchestrator to understand the contextual heliophysics information and be able to answer these questions. And then finally, and this is just to tee you up, Joseph, was the solar wind team decoding the solar wind. So a whole bunch of outputs here. Probably not going to do it justice, but just to give a bit of a idea of what was done. So making use of Parker Solar Probe data for the first time, creating an entirely new machine learning ready data set with that. Similarly, also taking in situ solar wind measurements, being able to cluster them, identify them, and even pick out where there are some CMEs, for instance, that haven't been identified yet in your typical catalogs, and all of that, including a precursor Surya foundation model called SDO-FM, so that you could map basically the solar wind structures to the surface of the sun and predict all the way through the inner heliosphere what those different structures look like and where they are. So yeah, with that, I'd love to welcome Joseph here to the call. We have a alumnus that is not just a Heliolab alumnus, but also Earth Systems Lab, and coming through, to the US as a faculty member in 2025. So yeah, Joseph, I've got a couple of questions for you, just to warm things up, but then also obviously from everyone on the call, please do make use of the Q&A, and we can have an interactive bit here. But with you actually being part of FDL for quite a while, really interested, what brought you to FDL in the first place?
So I was finishing my PhD in 2023, and I was just curious about how the work works, and maybe just to learn more about Earth observation and also how to look at the sun, maybe at the moon as well. So I was just finishing my PhD in computer science, so I was just curious on that. There was the opportunity. One of the previous faculty, that is Raul, just sent me the invitation. I just applied, go through the process. The process is intensive. And yeah, at the end, it was more a curiosity of, okay, can I use all the things that I have learned throughout my machine learning experience as a computer scientist and apply it to the sun, apply it to the Earth observation. And yeah, I think that was the principal reason, just to apply to FDL.
Yeah, no, amazing. And beautiful to also see the sort of transition and staying like that. That's maybe a better question that I should have asked as well, what made you stay. But looking back at when you first joined, and now also for folks on the call now, if you can think of that version of you, what is the one thing you would like to kind of share as you wish you had known coming into FDL, if that makes sense?
Okay, there are several things I would say. So the first one is that you will be involved in a really intensive process. So it's just for summer, so it is 8 weeks. You can think for yourself, it's only 8 weeks, but it's 8 weeks that are pretty intensive. So I think that should be one of the first things. Also, I think that something that you have to learn here is that you cannot solve all the problems by yourself. It's impossible. You need other people just to ask questions. If you have any doubt, just ask, because sometimes we just assume things, and maybe for that assuming thing, you can lose the track of the project. I think that also maybe the communication is a top priority. So probably as a PhD student, you usually work in your own silo. You don't communicate with anyone else, maybe just with your PhD advisor and so on, just that. But here is not like that. Here is the idea is just to work as maybe as an enterprise, where you have to communicate with your boss, with the other team members, to communicate the ideas, communicate the challenges that you are having. Also, something that is difficult, but you have to be aware of this, is that you only have 8 weeks. And the issue is that what you have to think about this is that all the knowledge that you have before, you can try to apply it on the 8 weeks, but try to learn something else from scratch is almost impossible. So try to focus on your strengths. What are the things that you have the strengths? What are the topics that you feel comfortable to apply? I think that is more valuable here on the project than maybe just try to relearn a new stuff. Maybe I don't know, maybe the new diffusion or maybe the new thing. So sometimes it's not a good strategy. Also, here is just an open mind, I would say, because you will learn a lot of things. For instance, how to use Google Cloud Platform, how to communicate with SSH. So there are several things from the computer science that you will have to learn if you come from the data science, from the domain science, sorry. So yeah, I think that maybe what I have told you that to myself.
No, It makes a lot of sense, and I think it is beautiful seeing the kind of growth across the board. And if one brings your best self, then I'd say you started out not knowing too much of solar wind physics, but suddenly by the end of the last year's sprint, you're somewhat of an expert. Another question from our side. And you've been a researcher, you've been a faculty member. What parts of FDL have you kind of seen percolate into your day-to-day? Are there some aspects, some learnings that you have actually found work outside of FDL as well for you?
So yeah, I think that FDL modified the way that you think about the problems. Usually, here you learn about all the other people, so because you are working with not only with computer scientists but also with domain scientists. So the way that domain scientists could be different to a machine learning person. So I think that that is really valuable, where the person could see the problem in a different way, not maybe on the computer scientist way, but maybe more in the mathematical or maybe more in the physics way. I would say also how to communicate with other people ideas, because here one of the principal parts is how to communicate better with other people. So, for instance, how to create a really good presentation. That is something that we just refine in all the iterations throughout the sprint. So this is something that is really remarkable, because it's the only way that you can communicate ideas with others. So you have to be aware of how to talk, how to speak with other people, how to present your ideas, because sometimes maybe in a PhD or maybe in a master, you are just focused on your own idea. Maybe you present once or twice as much, but here it's not like that. Here the idea is that we are going to present several times the same idea, refine them, how to, for instance, how to change just one slide, and how to focus on those little details that the person can just focus on, better understand your idea. So I think that that's kind of the things that FDL modify your way of thinking. Also, how at the end, how to work hard. So I think that here is something that you learn by heart, and it's not easy. But at the end, is I would say that that it impacts several ways, several parts of your life. Could be professionally, could be just also making relationship with other people. So yeah, I think that FDL modify you in several ways, not only on the professional, but also maybe on mentally and also as a person.
Amazing. Thank you. Thanks, Joseph. And that really does resonate with me as well in my experience. I'm just going to push through, but it would be great, as I said, folks, if there are any Q&As, pop them in the Q&A, and we can get to them. Everyone who has been part of Heliolab, more than welcome to jump in and answer there. So covered quite a lot of ground. I just want to encourage folks also to have a look at the actual website, heliolab.ai. You'll find all the different Heliolab research over the years there, the technical results and findings documents that really give a bit of idea. Also the live showcase recordings and a whole bunch of other content. For those of you who are applying, this is probably the slide you've been waiting for. The key details, applications are open. Please do apply by the 31st of March, but the earlier you apply, the faster we can get through the various different rounds. So encourage you to apply as early as you feel comfortable. The QR code on this particular slide will take you right there. And of course, the other programs are also open, so you can read more about the other programs and apply to them also at fdl.ai/apply. I'll just say here that Heliolab is a program at a sort of postgraduate level, so very much PhDs and postdoc level researchers. I realize that different fields have sort of different levels of seniority, and within computer science, often master's students have a lot more experience than, say, a master's student a more science degree where there's also been industry. So it's not really to say that you need to be at that level, but please do in your application show that experience. This is not an undergrad level research sprint. Also would like to emphasize that researchers and faculty do receive a stipend to support the participation. The sprint itself is 8 weeks from mid-June to mid-August and very much full-time. With folks joining us who are more from academia, we also do understand that in academia, publications are the currency involved. So we really do encourage folks to be submitting to journals and presenting at conferences. There's a fantastic record of that across the different teams. Last year, we had a clean sweep where every single team did present at either NeurIPS or AGU, and in most cases both. And one of the things that is beautiful about Heliolab is you will be meeting and working very closely with our partners. So NASA, JPL, Google, NVIDIA, Pasteur Labs, and many others. So one has that one-on-one opportunity to be working with some of the best in the world. In terms of the next steps, so for the application cycle, there are 3 phases. The first is the online application. So that's, again, if you look at this QR code, that takes you right there. That's the first step. From there, there's a bit of filtering, just making sure, and then there's a culture interview step. So as we said, people is the main success factor within FDL, and want to make sure that the right people are here. So with that, then you go through to a technical interview, because it is a very technical research sprint as well, and that can be from a domain or a ML AI background. A few things just to note here, that when you're in the final rounds, your application is always kept in the talent pool, and it is very much alignment with the research challenges that are funded in that particular year that dictate going through to the kind of final selection. Please do let us know if you have applied before, if anything has changed. But then also, yeah, as I've said, it is very much alignment with the research challenges. So it is not a reflection on your potential if you don't make it all the way through to being on a challenge. It's often very much just alignment. And then those final round candidates will remain in the talent pool for future consideration. There are a few facts. These are all on the websites as well. One of the common ones that come through is, I cannot apply as both a data scientist and a space science researcher. And the answer is absolutely. We do use these to balance team composition. So please do submit what you feel really resonates with you the most. If you are mostly domain, please do sort of highlight that. Or if you're mostly on the AI ML side, obviously the hybrid shaped individuals, do add that. And then also if you are a software engineer, so a lot of the kind of challenges in getting to this sort of integrated front-end intelligence stack need a lot of plumbing, a lot of software engineering expertise. So please highlight that. Where does this sprint take place? So the sprint will be virtual for the US program, and it's US time zone based. So wherever you dialing in from, that will be absolutely fine. There is the desire, as I said, for an aspect to be in person, but that is yet to be confirmed. At the moment, it is a fully virtual program. And lastly, if you feel you don't meet all the criteria, should you still apply, please do. We do want a diverse range of applications and individuals. It is that makes this interdisciplinary initiative so successful and so beautiful. The last couple of things, it's very much a full-time commitment. So when you are applying, please do bear that in mind, as particularly as a researcher. Do let us know if there are any concerns around your availability to commit for the full 8 weeks. And then, yeah, it is not an accompanied program. It is a virtual program in this particular case. The other thing to just highlight is there are different ways to get involved. If you do not want to join as a researcher or faculty, there are very many different ways to get involved. One of the main ones is as a reviewer. And it is that reviewing cycle that really helps us maintain the sort of standard and push the envelope even further. So please do consider that as well. Okay, so with that, I think we can jump straight in to the Q&A. So having a very quick look there, got two on the portal. Please do keep adding. We have plenty of time now, and you can also come off mute. So the first one from Chriselle, application form the same for Helio AI or Heliolab and Lunar Lab. Yes, so you can click on that, and it will ask you which program you want to be applying to. If you want to apply to multiple, I believe you can click on both, and that's absolutely fine. And then another question around the Earth Systems Lab challenge, the first week in person. Yes, so from the ESA side, Earth Systems Lab, there is the bootcamp aspect in person. And that's typical, also to be confirmed, but yeah. Any other questions? And please, as I said, do raise your hand. That's more than welcome. Okay, so the question around applying for multiple labs, how are you matched to any lab program? So going through the different rounds, you would progress through with the kind of, I guess, you can think of it as the notes around that application. You say your domain is very much just in radiation modeling, and it doesn't really matter whether it is for a solar application or a lunar application. That would be noted, and if there is a particular challenge, say within Heliolab, looking at that, then that is a direct match. That is assuming that the technical and the cultural aspects come good. See, I think we've what topics will be covered in the technical interview? That's a great question as well. So technical interview is really to understand where you feel comfortable most. If you're coming from a domain expert side, it would really be to showcase that domain expertise, which aspects are you an absolute expert in. But from a more general AI ML side, it would be very much understanding your capabilities and your fluency with the various different approaches. I would say across the board, programming expertise is required, so there would be a kind of assessment of your comfort level within Python programming in particular. But if not, that's more generally, and I'd really encourage you to be as authentic as possible with that. We do want to see not just sort of an output, but the understanding behind that. So a typical way would be to actually share some code you have written, or share a workflow you've created, or a paper itself, and explain the various different aspects towards that. And then, yeah, just that follow-up question about, is there a coding interview too? That would be part of the technical interview to understand exactly where you're at with that. Got a hand here from Alex.
Hey, Mike. Thanks for taking my question. I had a question. This might be applied for others too, and I apologize because I didn't join at the beginning. But if somebody did already have like a code if somebody was already like in a GitHub repo and they've submitted code to an existing, like NASA project, like NASA Impacts Surya, could they use that as a helpful part of like their contribution to being part of this demonstrating proof of performance in the technical interview process?
Yeah, absolutely, and it's really about understanding the contribution made to that. But that's a great example of it. So we do live in a very exciting time, but with that there is the ability to do a lot of vibe coding, and this is something that I must say is a challenge, but it's also very much a tool. So if one can understand and show what's that bit of code, the reasoning behind it, what was needed to be achieved, and explain that's exactly what we're looking for. Yeah, I hope that answers and makes sense.
Yes, it does. Thank you. That brings some clarity for folks that might be thinking about, especially those that might be hybrid vibe coding or using both their expertise.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so yes, so there's a question around that. For the hybrid shaped individuals, how would that technical interview be structured? And yes, it is. Yeah, I would say sort of customized to or directed to you as a applicant. So if you are a hybrid individual, one would want to be seeing both sides, and we would in that interview dig as deep as one would allow, if that makes sense. So if you've got lots of work to show from a domain expert side, see where that boundary is, if that makes sense. It's kind of pushing to understand where that boundary lies. Same from the code aspect. And the expectation isn't that if you are the hybrid kind of shaped individual that you would be absolutely bulletproof on both sides. There's a real need within a team to have communication between both fields. So a hybrid individual is also an incredibly valuable asset in a team who is able to basically translate a lot of the domain experts sort of knowledge into the ML side and vice versa. And it's really, with the technical interview, we just really want to understand where you're at. It's not a trick question. It's not, you don't have to go crazy with lead code to try and sort of crack it. It's just to understand where you're at, and bring your authentic self is what we would want. Okay. Any other questions? And also, I'd love to open up for general thoughts. We've got a lot of friends of the program on the call. Any thoughts to share, reflections? Joseph, you've also been involved as a technical interviewer, and Angelos, I think, as well. So I don't know if I was answering that, how you would have also answered that.
For the different roles, you're thinking?
Yeah, the kind of, I guess, the hybrid shaped individuals where you have both domain and ML, and what does one look for really?
Oh, for the hybrid individuals, yeah, that's right. Yeah, it's I think that works well to have at least one in each team, because then they can communicate both sides, both of the, say, the domain and the technical aspect with the other team members, especially when we're not available, say, as the advisor is not available at that particular moment, particularly because everything is very fast, right? Everything has to happen very quickly for those 8 weeks. It's a sprint after all. And so it might not be able to get the feedback from us on time. So yeah, I would think that this is a very good capability to have or to develop also down the line.
And I think, to be honest, everyone develops. You leave changed.
Yes.
If you come in as a ML expert, you'll have a newfound appreciation for space
For
physics.
science, yeah.
Yeah,
But for the
yeah.
scientist folks, particularly the younger career, the early career folks, I think it's a necessary skill to have down the line.
Yeah.
Beyond the science, it's going to be absolutely crucial for their career, I think.
Absolutely, absolutely. No, thanks for that, Helios. Yeah, I know we are at time, so I think I'd really encourage everyone, if any thoughts do come up or any questions, please do reach out. More than happy to support throughout the application process and as we go forward. So the challenges, as I mentioned, are being defined at the moment and refined. Getting the stakeholder input from NASA, and over the next few weeks we would be hopefully announcing those and taking everything forward. Lastly, the QR code again on this slide does take you to the application itself. And thank you so much for joining on a Friday afternoon. Really wish you all an incredible weekend and catch up very soon.